Good morning. I want to talk a little bit about the moment everything shifted. Manifestation, Mexico, the spark that changed our life. So, for those of you who have been following along, might have seen some of my stories, or maybe even my husband Ben's quick little live update like a week ago, basically giving everybody the clue that we're leaving Mexico and we are starting another adventure. And those moments in life when you feel something kind of click inside, you can't unfeel it, right? And that's what happened to me this year and our family. And so on the outside, right, it looks like a big, bold decision. Leaving Mexico after our 8 years being here, taking our family on an 8-month adventure through South America. But on the inside, it's so much deeper. A spark that I've been kind of ignoring, a version of myself I've kind of been postponing. And I just wanted to kind of give you some insight on how it happened. And, this isn't just a travel story, it's really a manifestation story, an identity story, and finally choosing yourself story. So, we have lived in Mexico for the last 8 years. Those of you who follow or know anything about us, we moved from Canada to Mexico. We drove down here in 2018, sold all of our stuff, got a shitty minivan, and drove down with 5 totes. And that's it. And so when we did that, it wasn't just about a location change, even though that was a big part of that. We wanted the warmer weather, we wanted the new culture, we wanted the slower pace. We really wanted our kids to learn Spanish, right? These are the usual reasons why we talk about it, tell people, etc. But if I'm being completely honest, it was kind of the beginning of this identity shift long before I even knew what language that meant. My husband was high up in the world of corporate. He was a VP of Western Canada, so he traveled a lot. And family has always been such a big part of our world and our life, and we wanted him around more. So, as we started making some choices and putting some things out there in terms of what we wanted to do, we just knew we wanted to change it up. We wanted to have a different life. And so, when we moved here, I learned, that everything familiar kind of was gone. And the nice thing about that is that when everything familiar is gone, you have to rebuild, right? You have to know what you don't want. You have to know what you do want. You have to know what you're tolerating in the past and maybe what you want to create in the future. And I really had to learn that comfort can be a trap if you stay in it for too long. And so Mexico is beautiful. We got everything we wanted from Mexico. And it healed a lot for us. My husband's only 2 goals were to never wear socks again and to take the girls to and from school every day. And he did both. Thank goodness the socks kind of came back on in the first 2 years we lived at the beach. But we created this unit of our family, of the importance of being together, growing and living and acting a certain way. And that was part of the adventure. And that was really a big piece of it. When we moved here to central Mexico, which is in San Miguel 4.5 years ago, my oldest daughter at the time was not very happy. And we haven't told this story to many people, but it was during COVID. We were isolated. She had moved schools, but they were online. So she hadn't made many friends. And she really wanted to go back to Canada. And of course, we didn't want to go back to Canada. We'd been in Mexico already 3 years at that point. And so we had friends who lived in San Miguel who had kids the same age as ours. And we said, what if we move there? We'll make some effort, we'll make some friends, not really realizing the extent of what that would look like, but we thought we would try it. And she was like, okay, let's do that. So we've been in San Miguel for 4.5 years. We basically committed to having her finish high school here. But what I didn't realize until just recently, as we started talking about this new adventure, is that the light that I love for travel and excitement was really, really dull. It was there because we lived in Mexico. We didn't live, in our hometown. We didn't, necessarily have all the things that we've had, but it was just really, really, really low. My light was dimmed, right? And I just needed a new spark. And so my daughter had graduated. My younger daughter was already online this year because we were looking at moving schools, and there was a whole hurrah with that. So it wasn't that we knew exactly what we wanted to do, but we knew we needed a new something, right? New something. I wanted to feel alive. I wanted to, get out of the rut of waking up and doing and all of those things. And so we tried a few different things. We tried to look at a few different towns and cities in Mexico, and nothing just really felt right. South America has been whispering to me very, very gently for a while, hiking the mountains, seeing the ruins, touching Machu Picchu, which has been on my vision board for forever. And it all kind of just worked out that way. So eventually I listened to those words in that were kind of talking. And then we started saying, well, what would we do if we left Mexico? Do we want to go back to Canada? No. Do we want to go to England where my husband is from? No. We talked about moving to Spain, but there was a lot of red tape at the time and we just really couldn't get that to work. And so, oftentimes people assume really big decisions come from courage. It really doesn't. It comes from, the idea of creating and becoming and this adventure. I didn't want to stay small anymore. I didn't want to pretend that, we didn't want bigger and better things. My older daughter's on a gap year and she's already started to talk about traveling, and she was talking about going to Europe and getting a year, like all of these things. And I was jealous of her. I wanted to have this travel adventure. And I wanted to have it with our family unit, with her being almost 18. I knew that our time was coming to an end. And I just thought that if we did it together, it would be really fun. So as we started talking about it, something really shifted, right? Wildly shifted. And, I've been using AI images already in my work and in my personal life and my vision board. And, that idea of my future self and becoming her and stepping into her was already happening. It was already becoming me, because it wasn't just a generic photo. It was me standing on the top of Machu Picchu. It was me, traveling and taking photos and being with my family. It was real. It was tangible. It was undeniable. And so in the end, really understanding and seeing ourselves in South America, I could feel the adventure. And just by that, I felt the spark starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then, I was introduced to Megan, and this idea of manifestation was kind of finally making more sense to me. I was like, oh, I'm not wishing this. I'm actually doing daily things each and every day to help us get here. And so, when it happened intuitively, I just didn't have words for it. I didn't really know exactly how it was. And because I've never been able to visualize, that's a whole other story itself. I'll post a link below and you can take a look at that video. But it was just never something that I had kind of put two and two together. And her methodology, as she calls it, it's really her way of life. But for a lot of us, it's a methodology. She taught me how manifestation actually works with the nervous system, right? It fills the holes that I didn't even know were there. And then it gave me language to the internal shifts that I could now actually put into words. And so I've been just walking along. I've been doing what I had always been doing, and then when AI images were introduced to her, when she came into the AI identity lab, her life changed as well. And so then we were like, okay, we got to do this together. We have to make sure that we are creating this incredible opportunity for manifestation and AI images to come together. Decisions became easier, confidence grew, opportunities showed up faster, and then saying yes to our South America adventure suddenly felt inevitable. It was just, okay, that's how it's going to be. And so the 5-day manifestation challenge that's happening right now, if you're watching this video live, it's December 3rd. We're actually leaving for our adventure in 2 days. We're in a city close to the airport. We fly out Friday morning, and it's just the excitement of being ready to go. And running this challenge at the same time, it kind of is just like this beautiful line together, because we're collapsing timelines, we're anchoring identities, we're giving birth to any idea of adventure. And now remember, adventure doesn't have to be putting on a backpack and traveling through South America for 8 months. That might be too much for everybody, and that's okay. But adventure might be going and checking out your hometown, trying a new restaurant, writing a book, putting something in play on your business. Like, adventure is what you make it out to be. And I was on a podcast this morning. We were talking about adventure and trust. And yeah, I have to trust that everything's going to happen for a reason. And I have to trust that everything is going to work out. My experience and my evidence has shown me that that's the case, because no matter if it's the way I thought it was going to work out or what was happening, it always does, right? Those identity shifts, the action taking, all of that stuff happens because of this trust in my adventure. So, as we kind of get into this process, we've got bags packed, everybody gets one bag, one carry-on, and this is our life in a container. And we're just in that place where we're just ready to go. And I want to inspire you to not necessarily take a massive trip like this, but if you do, awesome, dream big, go bigger, but also just do something that's going to take you outside your comfort zone. Because when you get outside your comfort zone, there is nothing better. And in my case, when we moved to Mexico and we didn't know the language and we landed in a spot, and you have to figure shit out, and you get better at it, you grow from it. This next adventure is taking us to potentially 6 different countries. Yes, it's Spanish throughout most of them, but they're different dialects and there's different, cultures and food. And so there's just going to be a lot of adventure. And a lot of people look at it from a negative perspective, like, oh my gosh, why am I going to find this? Or what am I going to do that? And what if that? And what if that? I look at it as an adventure. All of it is figure outable. Maria Folio has written a book that says everything is figure outable, and it's absolutely true. It may not be exactly how you wanted it to, but it is absolutely figure outable. So as I go into this next chapter with myself and my teenage daughters and my husband, right, adventure is exciting. And remember, what adventure means to you and what it means to me may be 2 different things. You may be sitting here being like, you are a crazy lady, you're going with kids to a different country, oh my gosh. It's okay, right? That the power comes from the change, right? The uncertainty, the confusion, and all of those things. So it doesn't have to be travel, right? It doesn't have to be even AI images. It doesn't have to be manifestation. It's about remembering who you are and to stop playing small. Take risks. Let your future self lead instead of the version of you who doubts everything. If you're choosing to light your life up, even if it scares you, right? If this video can do anything for you, I hope it reminds you that if your spark is dull, it's not gone, and you just need to pick it up and push to move forward. So all I want you to do is think, what's one thing I can do today that's a little bit outside my comfort zone and create my own adventure? Now, I'm going to be talking a lot, documenting all of our journey, because one, this is what I do. My business is all about my future self and creating these images, but now I'm going to be able to live some of the images that I've created, that manifestation, that visualization, that becoming you, but also because it is part of who I am, what I do. Most common question outside of my business that I get in general is, what made you move to Mexico? Why are you there? What do you like about it? So I know there's going to be questions, and I'm excited to answer them as well. But just know, at any point, if you are in need of a little bit of adventure, walk out your front door and go to a restaurant you've never been to, right? Pick flowers, take a walk in a direction you've never gone, right? It doesn't have to be extreme. You just need to get yourself outside of that comfort zone and make it happen. Anyways, I can't wait to continue teaching, learning, showing, right? We are the teacher and the student. I can't wait to bring all of that to you guys. So if you are interested in joining along, don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, and my episodes will continue to have beautiful special guests on it, but it will also have part of our stories as well. Anyways, have a good one. We'll speak to you later. Bye.